All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Living Better podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and today I'm with Abi. She is a mind coach from India. And thanks for being with us. It's actually nighttime for me here, early morning for you. So we were able to schedule this so we can talk about the sport of shooting. So there's two main divisions or federation. There's the International Shooting Sport Federation of India that you deal with in terms of helping athletes with enhancing their mind when they compete. And they also have the National Rifle Association when they do certain distance shooting, pistol and rifles. So let's get into that. And it's very interesting because it's going to be a different formula of a podcast. Abi reached out to me and she had questions in regard to my own shooting, because for those of you who don't know, one of my hobbies is to do competitions in pistol shooting. So I do IDPA pistol shooting and I compete in the SSP category, which is stock service pistols. So the pistols that I use don't have any enhancement, they're not modified. So it all comes down to your skills and how you apply them in the course of fire. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I compete in the expert category professionally. So today we're going to be exchanging on the subject of shooting, the mind, and going back and forth, asking each other questions. So it's going to be really different than just being the interviewee. So let's start by introducing you, Abi. Can you talk a little bit on how you became a mind coach and how you got
Hi,
into
Matt.
how you got into the shooting sport in India, how you got to focus in that area specifically?
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And it feels so great to connect with you all the way from India and to discuss about the mind training aspects. Well, the whole idea started a few years ago when I was counseling a few athletes because they couldn't deal with the match pressure. And I was counseling them for fear, anxiety, competition, confidence, mindsets, etc. But everything seemed fine during the counseling sessions. But when the same story repeated, when they faced similar challenges, fortunately, during the same time, my brother got involved with shooting sport because he enjoyed playing the game. And that gave me an immense opportunity to interact with shooters across the country because I used to travel along with them for all the competitions across the country, all age groups. And then I learned they lacked mental training or mind training because they faced so many challenges in spite of months and years of practice. Because during the competition, it's your mind that plays the major role. And they lacked the clarity. They lacked the confidence. They were surrounded with fear. There's a bit of nervous panic attack because they lacked the basic understandings or the fundamentals of how our mind worked was lacking. So that is what I found. And it makes me really sad to see thousands of athletes who compete every year from investing their prime years of life into their sport, financially, emotionally, putting in all the resources. But at the end of the day, after a few years, they just give up because they are not able to achieve anything. And they just, succumb to all the failures. They think, okay, they've done their work, they've given all their hard work, and they've done enough practices. But at the end of the day, they've not received any result. They've not achieved anything. And so many years of their life has gone for a waste because they don't understand the basic fundamentals of it. And that really hurts me. And like so many people, so many students and athletes who are competing every year. India has around 100,000 shooters that come up and compete every year. This is a large volume. It's a huge number. And so what is needed is to teach them how mind works, is to really coach them the basic fundamentals. Because I truly believe every sport has got major components like physiological, psychological, nutritional. But I believe there is also a fourth component which is hidden, that's neurological. You need to understand how your mind works. Only then you will be able to execute or deliver your performance effortlessly. It has to be that way. Otherwise, whatever you practice, you will not be able to deliver unless until you work your mind for it.
Mhm.
So that is a whole concept that I wanted to start and establish and probably give to all the students and help them. That was the whole idea of
Okay. And how were you drawn to that initially? What sparked that little desire in you to become a mind coach?
it. Because we all live in a society surrounded by successful people of all spheres of life. It can be
Mhm.
sportsmen, CEOs, scientists,
Mhm.
inventors, physicists, businessmen, anybody.
Yeah.
They're all not made up of any special genes. They're just human beings like us. So, what made the difference? Because they followed a series of mindsets, routines, rituals, practices, which transformed their lives. So, that was the basic fundamentals that was lacking for the other people because they thought, okay, they have some special quality or special genes, and probably they came from a different galaxy and they won. No, it is not that way. It is totally different. They're just ordinary people like us who
Yeah.
became extraordinary through their skills. So, how do you develop those skills? Because science tells us it is not about genetics or it is less about genetics, but it is more about habits. That's what science is proving each and every day. So that was the whole idea to start Pragya. Pragya is the name of my consultancy. It means, it's an ancient word in Sanskrit. It means wisdom. So I offer these simple mind tools and it can help anyone to achieve their dreams in whatever they pursue. They can achieve their dreams. So I just wanted to install a belief that we all have an inbuilt program within us, which will help us to succeed in everything we aspire.
Wow. So that's how it started. Awesome.
Yeah.
And in teaching people and coaching people, what are the similar patterns you've noticed in human beings that are holding them back in achieving whatever goal they set for themselves?
Um, to answer this, I would like to say basic fundamentals so you yourself will be able to answer this question so
Mhm.
easily. I would like to start with, what exactly this is all about, the fundamentals of the mind training and how it is helping all the people or how it can help anybody who really need this. Well, to start with, we are born with a bundle of nerves, and these bundle of nerves are so intricately connected through billions of neural pathways. So imagine these neural pathways as tiny roads in a no man's land, and it is connected to all areas of the brain in all possible directions. Now, these roads or pathways connect with one another every time when you think, feel, or do any activity. So we strengthen these roads or neural pathways when we repeat any activity or thoughts or the same feelings or emotions. And that's how it gets strong. The connections get strong or thickened or strengthened because we keep traveling often by repeating that task or that activity, and that's how we learn. So that those tiny roads become like national highways, state highways. So that's how we learn everything. We learned everything as a kid, like talking, walking,
Mhm.
brushing, combing, every activity that we did. So these connections are strengthened and they're called habits. That's how it is stored in our brain. And those are our established ways of thinking, feeling, or doing any activity. Imagine if you don't have these habits. Imagine if you don't have any of these neural pathways. So what happens every day when you get up? You have to learn how to talk, how to walk, how to eat. By the end of the day, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing repeats the next day, right?
Mhm.
So these neural pathways are very, very important to understand the basic fundamentals of this mind training because these habits develop a sort of an automaticity. It's like a second nature. You don't really consciously think about it. You effortlessly do it, right? So
Mhm.
when you brush your teeth in the morning or when you walk or when you drive your car, which is already developed as a habit, you
Mhm.
don't really think consciously. You can
No.
listen to your music, you can talk over the phone while you drive your car, but you effortlessly do it. That is
Mhm.
how it works. The automaticity of your mind works that way. So the pathways which are not traveled, or rather which are traveled very less and less, gets pruned away in due course of time, gets faded away in due course of time.
Mhm.
So brain works in a principle, either use it or lose it. That's a
Yeah.
principle of the brain.
Mhm.
So this incredible design defines every possibility for the future. Every time we think in a certain way, or practice a particular task in a certain way, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this role. We strengthen this neural pathway. So all our activities become, whatever we practice, it becomes a second nature. That's how our brain learns and adapts to the environment by forming new connections, deleting a few, or changing the design. So it's like everybody have got their own design. It's like a circuitry diagram in your skull. So depending upon what you learn, process, think, you develop as a person, you develop as a program. As kids, we learn to talk, isn't it? We start by learning few words and then the sentences and then the whole language, and then we become highly proficient in it. Some people have an excellent, extraordinary command over their language. So that is the beauty of a learning or adapting. So each one of us have built a very specific program or a design with our own experience. Every feeling, every emotion, every thought, perception, whatever we had, we desired, we cherished, we remembered, we feared, every activity that was created by us or invented or played have shaped this program in our mind. So it is very unique. My program is very unique. It's like a fingerprint. And your program is very unique, like your own fingerprint.
Mhm.
Now, most of these programs, almost everything, is influenced by your parents, your teachers, your environment, your travel, your social interactions, your society, your inspirations, your mentors, everybody.
Mhm.
So, till the age of 25, we learn. Our brains get adapted, changing, learning. The entire process takes place. So, today, we are what we are is because of the program that we built within us, by us, that defines us. So that exactly is the whole idea of this mind. It doesn't happen overnight. Just because you learn something and you reach a competition, you stand there. It's your mind that plays a major role because you already have a program in your mind which is built right from the time you're born till that very minute. And that starts to play. The recording starts to play. And you're just going to execute whatever you think out there. So that is the whole concept or the basic concept of this entire mind, the fundamentals of the neuroscience. So these neural connections, which are strengthened and weakened in due course of time, it serves its own purpose. Like, we customize our own software. It's like our own entire program, which runs like a software
Yeah.
with every minute details of it, whatever you have felt, every minute details that you have felt from the time you're born till this very minute. All we do is run the program and we upgrade it when, as and when required. That is all that's happening in our lives. So it's like here we have the map of our experiences, the entire map of our experiences, and the whole body gets a signal from this map.
Mhm.
This program is built only by our own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
Mhm.
And these three, the link between the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is what defines our game or defines our life or defines anything that we do. That is the basic concept of my training.
Okay. And in introspect to what you're saying, so by explaining how it works, certain people have better programs than others. Therefore, they're higher achievers, they're better performers. Um, they're obviously there's some people that their programming is not helping what they're trying to achieve. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
So how do
That's
you deal into breaking down this program that's a could be a lifelong gathering of experience, their parents, like you said, mentors, life experience, school teachers, and stuff. How do you undo something that's not working?
yeah.
How do you break a habit?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the good news is we all have the ability to change, learn, or rewire the program that is built within us.
Mhm.
But the tricky part, only if we want to. That is the tricky part. Only if we want to,
It's
we
tricky
can
for
change
sure.
it. That's true. because the brain is more plastic. It changes, it learns.
Yeah.
That's a concept of neuroplasticity. And this changing, learning, adapting is quite easy to the age of 25, because that's why we go to school during that phase. We keep learning, we keep changing, we keep adapting to the environment and to everything that we are exposed to. But after 25, your brain becomes more concrete or less fluidity. I would rather put it that way. It becomes more concrete. So whatever you learn or whatever you want to change, whatever you want to focus, it has to be very, very, very specific. You need to create a lot of awareness around that specificity. You need to have that incredible detailing to everything that you do. You need to have routines, and you need to be more curious, more focused as to why you want to change. Otherwise, those changes don't take place. And that's the reason people give up. If you don't have that incredible detailing to everything that you do, if you don't have that focus, if you don't have that awareness, if you don't develop that curiosity towards your goals, then you will not be able to pursue your goals. You will eventually give up. Probably after a few years, you will say, okay, that's because you're not changing. You're not rewiring your brains. The brains are just as it is because you've built a program that way. And it is not easy to change the neural pathways, because that is for instance, every day scientists have estimated there are around 60,000 to 85,000 thoughts that crosses your mind. So imagine the volume of thoughts that we are dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. That's really not easy. So you need to work on it. You need to work to make the required change. That's why they say, master your brain, master your life. An athlete must know these fundamentals. He must understand his practices are strengthened in the form of habits. What he must repeat, how he must repeat, how he must stamp those repetitions in his mind. So he effortlessly delivers his performance without his mind getting distracted. And those are the key factors. Those are the real key factors. The knowledge of the fundamentals, controlling and tuning your mind is a key factor. It is like, how do I put it first? It is like the brain swimming in a bowl of soup. Imagine the whole brain, the dynamic organ, swimming in a bowl of soup. And this soup is made up of chemicals. So it functions electrochemically. Every cell of your brain is constantly chatting or communicating with each other, because it keeps storing, deleting, capturing, recording, processing all the information around you, within you, every second. So every thought is linked to an emotion. Suppose you want to munch a chocolate or you want to munch a favorite snack. And when you think about your favorite snack, what happens? That triggers the linked emotions associated with that thought, like craving, hunger, longing, happiness, etc. Because all those emotions with that particular thought is stored in the database of your brain. So, which means the very thought alters the chemistry of the soup the brain is swimming in, because it triggers the release of those chemicals responsible for that hunger, craving, longing, happiness, etc. So whatever you think, you're altering the chemistry of the brain. You're altering the entire chemistry. So just because you're feeling stressful or fearful, it means you're changing the chemistry of the brain. And that's the reason you're feeling stressed. And that's why the stress chemicals are secreted in your body. The fear chemicals are secreted in your body. So if you have to balance it, then you must not secrete those chemicals. That is the trick that you need to follow. How do you do it? So it's like thought linked to emotions, which determines which chemicals that needs to be released. So whatever you think plays a major role, because every thought is connected to that emotion. And the moment when you think, you're going to alter the chemistry of the brain. So you've got to be very, very careful as to what you think, especially during your competitions, especially during your matches or when you practice. That comes with your self-talk. So if you're having a tough day, for example, you're having a really tough day, it's all a chaos from morning. It's like, you've been breaking your head. Yeah. And suddenly you get a message from your loved one to your phone. The moment you saw a message, there's a smile on your face.
Mhm.
And how does it happen? That message is the thought of your loved one, which is linked to an emotion,
Mhm.
and that secretes the feel good chemicals or the happy chemicals.
Mhm.
And so that brings a smile on your face in spite of the entire hard day that you're going through, in spite of all the chaos that you're going through. So
Mhm.
your thoughts are very, very, very powerful. It's not like simply talking to somebody. It's like
Mhm.
creating a ripple. Like, you throw a stone in the
Yep.
water, it creates a ripple. And
Yep.
you cannot recreate the ripple again. It's already created. So every time and what you do is you have to keep throwing the stone in the same wavelength, same diameter, same length, same radius to create the same kind of ripple of the same circumference. So it is similarly the brain works the same way. It is the same for all situations,
Mhm.
be it your game, be it your life, be it your day, everything. So now we saw how the thoughts and emotions are linked.
Yep.
And similarly, imagine you've come home after a long day. You want to watch your favorite game
Mhm.
and having your favorite drink, or probably have a drink and watch your game in the TV and or listen to your favorite music. And you
Mhm.
repeat the sequence of activity every day. Now, every time when you listen to that music or watch the game, you want to have that
Mhm.
because this behavior is associated with the thought and emotion. So it is three elements that plays a role. The thought, which is linked to emotion, which is linked to the behavior that plays a major, major role.
Mhm.
Now, similarly, when you're at a shooting competition,
Yep.
when you're exactly standing over there, positioning yourself for the shot, the particular thought you have during that time, it will help you to execute the game to perfection. It will help you to focus and be in the zone
Mhm.
because you do your self talk about the rituals of the game, the methods that you need to follow,
Mhm.
the technicalities that you have that are involved in executing those shots, which are literally stamped in your brain. It should be effortlessly delivered. The program you built with endless repetitions, perfecting the neural pattern or the sequence must be flawlessly executed.
Mhm.
Your habit mind must come into the place, not your conscious mind.
Yeah.
Your subconscious mind or the automatic mind must actually play the game. It's not
Mhm.
your conscious mind. The conscious mind will obviously be conscious about the surroundings. Your sensory gates are opened, and you hear your auditory gates are open, your optic gates are open. So you keep hearing, you keep seeing people, you get distracted. But the one thing that is in control is your mind, which you can actually control to the highest extent. So you need to master your mind
Mhm.
before really mastering your game. Only then you will know where exactly you're going. Otherwise, it'll be like a monkey mind. Monkey sees and monkey do.
Mhm.
Because you think a thought, that particular neural pathway will be firing and wiring together, whatever. So it will bring out all the emotions and behaviors associated with that particular thought at that particular moment. Every information from your database will come flooding to you. So
Mhm.
if you don't really control your thoughts, what happens is you get drift away. You just get carried away to galaxies apart. You're not really in the game. And so what happens? You forget the technicalities.
Mhm.
Either you go to your past or you go to your future, but you're not being in the zone, in the
I've been
present
there,
moment.
so I know what you're talking about. I've been there more
So
than
you must
once.
know, yeah, you must know
Yes.
how to control your mind. You must know how to
Yes.
control it. You must know how to focus it.
Mhm.
You cannot focus and concentrate on something that you really don't understand.
No,
You
no,
can't do that
definitely. You can't.
because it's like your mind has a language of its own, and you can only succeed if you understand it,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah.
as a shooter, I'm sure that you would have experienced the same. So,
Mhm.
what really happens when you shoot? What really happens when you actually stand there and you want to execute that? Do you have your thoughts drifting away? How do you manage it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been there definitely. So, my thoughts would be that either I'm thinking about the whole course of fire because I have different obstacles. So, instead of really just focusing on what I need to do, I'm going to think about the whole course. Therefore, thinking about the whole course, you're not applying 100% of your focus to each obstacles or each challenges that you're going to be facing. So that was one thing that I knew that I was doing wrong. And like you said, you have to know what you're doing wrong to reinforce what you can do good. So I've talked and I interviewed on the podcast Dr. Jacques Dallaire, and he
Yeah.
has his formula, and I think you've worked a bit with him, and you know his formula, which is A times B equals
A,
results, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that I was focused about was the results as well, but the results are not gonna be anything else than the combination of all your shots and how you applied yourself to every obstacle. So thinking about the results is not actually helping you to get the results you want. So I had to catch myself doing that to realize, okay, the results are not important. What's important is to apply the fundamentals of shooting, which every shooter knows, like the trigger control, the sight alignment, the breathing, the stance, the grip, and everything. Apply that to perfection and take each shot as it's the only one that matters. So that was my approach. I was okay, so I need to do, let's say, 10 shots, 10 obstacles. So yes, I would have a broader focus on the whole course, but then I would narrow it down to each single thing that I need to do. So it's good to have that broader understanding of how you're going to go about everything, to have like a game plan, but then you have to let it go. You have to control your mind, reshift, bring your focus back to being very narrow, and apply each shot. So you align your sides, you do your fundamentals, and you focus on that. Now, if I would miss or I wouldn't hit it perfectly, then my mind starts spinning again. The results, the failure, the fear of losing, all of that. And then again, I'm not focusing on the next shot. Therefore, I'm not helping myself, So
that is exactly every shooting athlete goes through this entire process.
Mm-hmm.
It is like they are not able to be in the moment. They get carried away either to their shooting practices, which happened, or the previous matches, or all the failures, or anything that has happened before the start of the competition. The moment they hear the match command, the thought process starts to trigger everything. Or they travel to the future, either to past or to the future. The future is like they keep thinking about the results, the scores, the next level of the competition. What if suppose they fail? How are they going to face the entire thing? They have to start from the scratch all the way. So all these kind of emotions. But what is the reality? The present moment. The present moment is something that you have in your hand, and only when you perform or focus in the present moment, you will have the result.
Exactly.
So your performance is something that matters, not the result. When you perform well in the present moment, the results will automatically follow. And how do you really understand that performance? You need to understand the mind works only in that present moment, at one thought at a time. Otherwise, it will start to create ripples. The moment you think about your past, every activity of your past will keep flooding to you at that moment. When you keep thinking about your future, all the activities that you're probably trying to do or thinking about in future will keep flooding to you at that moment. So it's very tricky. You need to practice it properly. It's like I said, the mind has a language of its own. You need to have that law of practice. What is the law of practice? Whatever you think, be it positive or negative or helpful or unhelpful, you excel in it. It's like I often come across parents who keep complaining about their children, that they spend a lot of time with video games, Facebook, Twitter, all the time. And they're really worried about their kids. But it's like a simple question. You ask anything about those video games to the kids, the Facebook to the kids. They would know every scores achieved by those video game players, every part of the world. They have it in their fingertips. How are they able to do it? Because the amount of hours they practice playing that game can be anything. The amount of hours they put in their Facebook. That's the reason they're able to excel in it. The hours and hours of practice. So imagine you play, or probably you're on the Facebook for 4 hours in a day. I'm just saying it's a social network. Anything, it can be anything. And so in a week, it's 28 hours. And in a month, it becomes 124 hours. And we're getting good at it. But by the end of 6 months, it's around 720 hours and you become an expert in it. Right? Yeah. So it's the same with your mind. You train your mind. Otherwise, you will become a masters of attraction. You will become a masters of distraction, not really attraction. So We are literally training our brain and body with thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And we want to attract what we really want in our lives, those results, those performance. It's like you pour water in your mind. What grows? Both seeds and weeds. Because it doesn't differentiate, it doesn't know the difference. What is a seed or a weed? The mind doesn't know whether you're holding a gun or a saxophone in your hand. It all understands only the routines, the rituals, the practices, the patterns that you've stored in your neural pathway when you execute something. That all it matters. It doesn't matter what you hold in your gut, what you hold in your hand. Similarly, whatever you practice, whatever you focus, whatever thoughts you harbor, be it fear, it grows. Be it confidence, it grows. Be it focus, it grows because you're cultivating it. You're harnessing that power.
Yeah.
So more and more you keep thinking about it, the more you develop the ability in you. It's like you charge your phone every day, and in the night you charge your phone, and in the early in the morning it's 100%. Similar, and then the energy drops. Whatever you do. Similarly, the body is also charged. Our mind is charged. It's a finite resource. You cannot keep wasting it all the time. You must know where to invest your energy in your daily routines.
Yeah.
If you have a goal, then you got to align your day to your goals. You need to align yourself with all your routines. Only then you'll be able to succeed in whatever you plan to do. And when you invest your mind and body with the energy, it's like, the chemicals in your body removes all the toxic, the brain chemicals removes all the toxics in the night. And in the morning, you have all the required pathways which are strengthened. So it is of great importance. You must understand the linkage between the mind and the body. There's a lot of connection to it. And it works with the circadian cycle. It works with your sleep cycle. It works with your nutritional, whatever you eat. A lot of factors are involved in it. It's not some simple science. It's like, it's the real science where your required neural pathways are strengthened by the release of required amount of chemicals, which are directly responsible for growth mindset, for performance, for feel-good factors, everything. So this must be perfected. It must be practiced to get success. It's like you have a savings bank account. And every day there is an interest that keeps adding in your account. And after years, you get a lump sum amount because of all the interest that is added. Similarly, we need to develop a neural bank. We need to develop a neural bank with practicing positive thoughts, willpower, focus, concentration, mindset, routines. You're task focused in every activity that you do. That's how you build your bank. Not just because of the competition, not just because you want to train a different person to be in the competition and a different person to be in a life. Nothing works that way. Your brain will not understand the difference. Your brain will understand only the patterns, the neural patterns that you develop. So if you want to focus on something, you need to practice focusing in each and everything that you do in your life, like from your morning till the night, the routines that you practice in your morning, the routines that you practice in the night. Every little bit matters because it's like, investment that you keep adding in your neural bank. And during the competition, that plays, that effortlessly comes. It's an automatic behavior that will play. If you don't practice such concentration, if you don't practice such willpower, then what happens? You lack in those areas. Because during competition, nobody is talking to you. You're not distracted. Only your mind talks to you. Only your brain talks to you. So until you have a strengthened neural pattern or a specific program that must be executed at that time, then you will not have any program to run. You will just simply hold the gun and you will try to execute the shots. End of the day, you will not achieve the results that you really want to. That is the difference. That is the whole idea of this entire mind training concept is all about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And changing those, one of the thing that I've personally done, and I got this from Tony Robbins, which is like this amazing life coach that everybody knows about. And what he was saying is that humans want to avoid pain or they want to increase pleasure. So in my experience, when you associate a lot of pleasure with something you're doing, then it's going to take the stress away. It's going to take all this anxiety you might have, and you're going to be able to perform better. So if you're really enjoying what you're doing, you're having a blast, you're really associating tremendous amount of pleasure to this activity versus allowing it to be painful with the fear of failures or just with deceiving your surroundings in a competition setting or whatever because you're not going to perform. And just by focusing on that pleasure, like you said, you change your emotions, you're going to change your thoughts and your behavior, and they're all interlinked. You can change the behaviors and change the thoughts and the emotion, or vice versa. So when you understand that equation, you can change one of the various aspects of it to make a better connection between the three to actually get the results you want. So in my experience, when I go to competition and I associate tremendous amount of pleasure and I'm like, I'm going to have fun. This is so great. I love shooting. And I keep rehearsing that in my head that this is amazing. It's fun. I'm outdoors. I'm getting to shoot rounds. It takes all the anxiety away because my mind now is really focused on the fun aspect of it instead of the fact that I'm competing and, I could fail, I could have a bad day, whatever, all those things. And the brain always seeks to look out for troubles, instead of focusing on what's actually going to enhance everything. So like you said, if you can catch yourself and control your mind, and then when you see that it shifts towards the negative scenario, you can drift it back to the positive one. But you have to catch yourself. So you have to catch yourself in the moment. Oh, like I'm going off track here. And then you can
Very true. That's amazing. I mean, you're able to have that fun in your shooting. Yes. You're able to have less anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm. And you see that in kids. Kids, when they have fun, they're so good at what they're doing. But when you're stressing them, they freeze. They don't want to do it. They have anxiety. They cry. Like if you try to push them to do something and you're just going to trigger that fear in them, that anxiety, they're not going to want to do it. But if you approach the kid and you say, hey, this is so much fun. Let's play a game. And then you teach something to the kid and using that time, that setting, the kid will ultimately perform and is going to have a blast. And we're like, when you grow up, you're like a big kid, those mechanisms still work. Even though we're adults now, they still work. And when you really focus on the pleasure of anything, it takes all the other stuff away. Well, to me, that was an easy trick that really worked.
That's amazing. That's exactly what I tell all my friends. Mm-hmm. Don't get too serious about it.
No.
But, it's easier said than done. I understand because a lot is at stake when it comes to competition. Mm-hmm. A lot is at stake because a lot of people have to achieve the results this year. Otherwise, they have to start from scratch the next year. And they academically progress also. So it's very difficult to concentrate in sports and academics at the same time if you really want to achieve something. So like missing out 1 year for students. And for adults, it's like they're missing out again 1 year of hard work. Again, they have to put in the entire amount of energy. So it's not easy. And that very thought triggers a lot of emotions because that's the reason they're hooked up to the result. That's the reason they're always worried about the future. They're not trying to be in the present. But it can be developed. I mean, instead of telling them, there are a lot of mind tools that can be developed. For example, you're able to have that feel-good time, or rather the happy moments, because there's a lot of dopamine in your brain. And that's a feel-good system. So how do you develop that for your sport? That's it. Dopamine is one of the important chemicals that is required for growth mindsets, or for your routines, or for your goals. How does it push you towards your goals? Very simple. You follow the circadian cycle, which is the sunrise and sunset. So after the sun sets, after a couple of hours, the body recognizes, along with the nature, well, it's time to sleep. Because all the strengthening of neural pathways, which is called neuroplasticity, happens in the night when you sleep. So it alerts you to sleep because the brain has to start doing its work. It's like literally clearing out the garbage. It's like literally clearing away all the toxic, unwanted connections, deleting everything, and strengthening what you have practiced, or what you're trying to focus. So it strengthens those focus muscles in the night. It happens in the night. And what happens? It releases dopamine. And so in your neural bank account, you keep saving this dopamine if you sleep early in the night and wake up early in the morning, not really be awake till 1 or 2 or in the middle of the night. So what happens is the brain thinks if you're awake in the night, it thinks something is wrong. It immediately goes into the flight or fight mode, which we are hardwired naturally. And so stress chemicals are secreted, cortisol is secreted. And where does it get stored? It's stored in the brain. So tomorrow, the next day, when you work, when you're trying to focus in your practice, there's a lot of stress. And obviously, when you get stressed, you have all the fear, and then you have the fear of results, you have the fear of performance and everything, because there is a tremendous amount of stress chemicals that are secreted in your brain because you have not followed the circadian cycle. So a lot of little things which makes a huge impact. When you follow the cycle, when you have a night routine, when you have a morning routine, it makes a whole world of difference. It really makes a lot of difference. Because what you're trying to do is not to secrete those stress chemicals or lessen those effects and heighten the effects of dopamine. So yeah, you're more confident. What does dopamine do to you? Like how you said, you take it easy. You find an opportunity. When you're relaxed, you find an opportunity. You don't really succumb to the failure. You're not panicked. So all these things happens because the chemicals are balanced in your brain and body. So you need to practice. That is a very, very important mind tool that I teach my kids. I tell them, follow the circadian cycle. Don't be awake in the night. You're not going to achieve anything by working late in the night till 12 or 1. You're just going to exhaust your brain. And if you really want to achieve something, you will not be able to focus because you're not really secreting those chemicals that are required to change or strengthen those neural pathways in the night. Neuroplasticity happens in the night. So if you want to achieve something, you need to make use of these certain hours of the day. You need to make use of those chemicals that secrete in certain hours of the day. That is a secret. You need to work your mind. You need to know how to work your mind. These are the fundamentals that every athlete must learn. Otherwise, you see all the successful people, they have a routine. They have a perfect routine. They have a morning routine they follow. Yep. They have a night routine they follow. They do not alter this. They do not confuse their body and system. They follow the nature. There is an alignment. They follow the nature. Only when you're aligned and when you're synced with that alignment, when you follow it, the energy flows. You're able to experience something called the flow. Otherwise, you will not be able to experience that flow. It's a chaos. It's a system chaos. And no matter you try to stay quiet and calm, you will eventually end up being in that confused state because you're not letting it flow. There's no energy. There's no flow energy. And this doesn't happen just for the competitions. I want to tell this to all the athletes. They somehow try to do everything a week before the competition. Nothing works. I mean, you're strengthening. You want to change your neural pathway. It doesn't work over the night. It's like, we are what we are because from the time we are born till this minute, we have accumulated the database. We have created the program. So whatever you need, suppose if I want to sing a song right now, I'm talking to you and I'm putting in all the attention and focus to you. That's the reason I'm being in the moment. But what happens if I start singing a song in my mind, then my thoughts are not in control. My words are not in control. I may be talking to you, but I'll be singing that song completely. So this happens during the competition. Your thought drifts and you don't know how to control it. And because of the drifting thoughts, your stress chemicals are secreted. And other chemicals, the attention chemicals are not secreted. Like how I told you about the circadian cycle, how dopamine is really, really important. Attention chemicals must be secreted when and wherever you focus. If attention chemicals are not secreted, you will not be able to focus. You will distract yourself. So there are a lot of various techniques that are involved. These are all neurological techniques that are involved in training the mind. Spend some quiet moments. Spend some quiet moments early in the morning for yourself. And when I say quiet moments, not like going alone to the gym, not walking in the park, not walking with your dog. I'm talking about your mind. Spend some quiet moments alone early in the morning because early in the morning is when we experience the alpha waves. The alpha waves, it's like when you rise early in the morning, the brain is so fresh because it has done with all neuroplasticity, there's blood circulation everywhere, and it acts like a sponge. It absorbs all your thoughts. It observes all the activity. You're able to focus at your best. That's the reason make use of those early dawn hours. So spend some quiet moment. Practice self-talk. That is a time that you need to practice self-talk. And how do you practice? Close your eyes. Chart the routines of the day. What you have to do. Talk yourself deep in your mind. Just talk to yourself about all the practices, your errors, how you plan to overcome those errors. And every time when you keep talking, you will find the answers yourself because everything is stored in your database. All you need to do is to just sit quietly and talk and find those answers. But the moment when you start doing it later part of the day, you will not be able to do it because you hear a lot of noises and from the surrounding environment through your ears and different visions or different lights enter through your eyes. So obviously your thoughts are distracted and you will not have the control. But early in the morning when you're alone, when the whole world is sleeping, that's the best time to do all your practice, to start your routine, to make use of those hours. So when you start talking, doing your self-talk with positive affirmations, everything changes. You will see the slow transformation that happens to your being as well as to your life. Your brain rewires. It changes in a positive way.
All right, everyone. Sorry for that. We just had a technical problem. My audio interface died on me, but it's back up and running. So we were talking about spending some quiet moment in the morning.
Yeah, spend some quiet moments early in the morning when you wake up. Practice your self-talk during that time. Because early in the morning when you wake up, the brain has done the neuroplasticity. It has the fresh blood running everywhere because it has cleared away all the toxic, it has cleared away all the unwanted connections, and it is so fresh. It's like a sponge. Mm-hmm. It observes everything that you do, everything that you focus on. So what you have to do is first practice self-talk. How do you do that? By charting the routines of the day. Sit quietly, make a routine, talk deep about the practices that you do. You will know and identify your errors very easily. And you will also have the solutions to it because the entire brain has a database of everything that you've done so far. All you need to do is to sit quietly and work what exactly went wrong, what needs to be done, what kind of routine that you have to follow in the day, and how you have to do it in the night. Throughout your day, just chart it out. Just chart it out in your mind. At least for a minute, spend at least for a minute, talk to yourself. You cannot practice self-talk all on a sudden somewhere at the competition. You have to practice it every day and not just on your practice bench. Start early in the morning. Practice in every activity that you do. If you practice focus, concentration, self-talk, and everything, you become masters of it. When you become a master of it, you will be able to achieve the Olympian dream. Nothing happens overnight because you are dealing with brain waves. You are dealing with neural patterns. And that takes time to achieve the mastery. It doesn't happen overnight. So early in the morning, when you start doing it with your alpha waves, every little detail rewires in your brain with absolute clarity. So 95% of our emotions are determined by the self-talk. Our self-talk determines our self-image. As kids, you would have seen kids doing self-talk all the time. They keep blabbering, blah, 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 blah. 1-year-old, yeah. 2-year-old, they keep blabbering all the time. That's the self-talk they do to learn things. That's the self-talk they're trying to do. But they're doing it aloud. But as adults, when we grow old, we don't really talk aloud. Then, people
we get called crazy otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. But we keep doing the self-talk all the time within our minds. Mm-hmm. We're not consciously aware of it. Even as we speak now, you may be doing your self-talk subconsciously. Hey, what exactly are we saying? Is it going to be really relevant? Is it really a good information for my viewers? Is it really going to help the shooters? All these kind of self-talk, mm-hmm. Keep talking. You keep talking subconsciously. Yeah. So we keep doing this all the time, not just during the time during the competitions or when the mind is quiet. No, we keep doing it all the time. But we're not very conscious about it. That is the only difference. Now I'm telling you, please be conscious about it because only when you talk, you will know, okay, you're not supposed to think this, you're supposed to think that. Imagine you're quiet, you're standing in the competition. And when you do your self-talk, what happens is you're being in the moment. When you don't do the self-talk, you're drifting away from the moment. Okay? Like, all right, I'm standing here, I'm positioning myself for the shot. The kind of self-talk I have to do is, all right, take your gun, aim, go to the preparation area, go to the aiming area, and execute the shot. So this is a self-talk that I must do. And after executing the shot, put down your gun, stand now, inhale, exhale, do your routine.
Yeah.
So I have to keep talking this again and again. Otherwise, you know what happens? My ears will be hearing to what others are talking, or probably what the
definitely the
Lucas, the
background
onlookers,
sound, the crowd, whatever.
everything is going to distract you. So your self-talk helps you to be in the moment.
Okay.
And when you're talking that way, your cells or the thought or the communication, the chatter, the constant chatter that is happening in your brain, that is our thoughts, gets reduced because you're talking something else. And the brain is going to be so attentive to what you're talking. You're talking in your mind. So attention chemicals are secreted when you do the self-talk. That is very, very important. And when attention chemicals are secreted, you will be able to focus. You will be able to focus and you will be in the moment. You'll be in the present moment. Because you're talking automatically. When your thought gets drifted, you will say, hey, Abi, don't get drifted away. That's past. You're supposed to be in the moment. You be in the moment here. You don't have to think about the scores. You're doing that self-talk within you, right?
Yep.
So that is very, 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 very important. Only then you'll be able to control the volume of thoughts, not just control. Even if you think anything, you'll be flooded with all the relevant information about the thoughts, emotions, behaviors that you've encountered all over your life. That's how the brain works. It's like a filter. You need to have the filter. And you must know how to filter those thoughts. And you must know how to use those thoughts with your self-talk in a positive, constructive way and be task-focused in whatever you do. Otherwise, you will not be in the moment. You've got to be mindful in the moment, right? You will not be mindful. You'll be totally distracted. And that's where every mistake begins. Otherwise, it gets very tough. So attitude determines the self-talk. You have a bad shot. A shooter takes a bad shot.
Yeah.
His next step would be like, okay, that was a bad shot. That's fine. I have so many opportunities ahead. I don't have to think about the past. Let me focus on the next shot. Let me start doing my rituals again. Let me start doing my routines again. That is the way to go about it. So when you're very curious about that moment with your self-talk, internally you rewire the brain to attention. There are a lot of factors that happen internally to you. You don't really get affected externally. Internally, you're helping yourself. That is a real secret of mind training. You're more positive, you're more constructive, you're more task-oriented, which will help you to perform. You need to develop that kind of a mindset. The problem with negative self-talk is it's something like what you resist will persist, right? So if you try to control certain thoughts, you will not be able to control. Don't try to control it. Just by self-talk to say, it is, once you're at the zone, be in the zone. Give a self-talk to yourself and just say, there's no point thinking about all this right now. It will not help me. Let me just focus on the shot right now. I'll think about it after the game. So you have to keep repeating that self-talk all the time. That matters. Otherwise, your brain will start to rewire to whatever you're thinking. And your thoughts will get drifted away. And whatever you think, the chemicals will be secreted according to it, according to the thoughts that you think. We've already seen with examples. So if you're experiencing fear or nervousness, which means your thoughts are that way, and the chemicals responsible for the fear and the nervousness are secreted at that time. If you're having the panic and anxiety, which means your thoughts are that way, and the chemicals responsible for the anxiety are secreted at that time. Simple. That's how the brain and the body works. We need to understand that. So you don't get flooded with all the irrelevant information from your database at that time. And this is an exercise that you have to do for your mind. And this is something that you need to do every day in everything that you do. Only then your thoughts will be streamlined. Your breathing will be controlled. You will find answers to all the errors. You will exactly know what's lacking and what kind of skill you need to learn more to develop yourself. It's like adding every day, adding a little percentage every day, and that will help you during the competition. Those are the fundamentals that I teach them, and these are the importance of your thoughts, you know, your emotions, and how everything adds up to your behavior, and how to make use of certain chemicals, certain part of the day, and to develop your growth mindset to pursue your goals, like your circadian cycle dopamine, I told you, and the motivation. And otherwise, the body reacts in a totally opposite way. And you'll be fighting the whole day, fighting your body and mind. And at the end of the day, you will not be able to perform what you have really practiced all your life. One thing I want to tell everybody, there are no quick fixes. It's not your Amazon order, because kids are so used to get everything they want by ordering online these days. It's instant results.
Yes,
they're all looking for
they
some
don't have
kind
patience.
of an instant result. But training your mind is not easy. It's not instant result.
No.
Nothing will give you an instant result. It's like building a new neural connection of focus, endless repetitions, practice your performance, and practicing your technicalities of the game with utmost precision. Really knowing your game, really knowing what kind of techniques are involved, and how do you really, keep building it, or repeating the technique in the same way, in the same pattern. That's a ritual. Following those rituals, and that takes time to master. That takes really, really, really a long time to master all your skills. The idea is to trick the brain to fall into the same sequence or routines by a series of patterns. It's like, I ask you an address and you tell me, Abhi, just go straight, go down, there's a four-way junction, and turn right, and then you have the mall. So that's the address that you're giving me. So similarly, when you practice something, it's like a routine. The brain must understand the ritual. All right, she's going to do this, and then she's going to do that, and then eventually she'll end up here, and I have to execute this way. That kind of routine needs to be stamped in your brain. That kind of a ritual needs to be stamped in your brain. Only then you will be able to deliver it. Otherwise, it's a chaos. Mind is totally a chaos. So all this comes with practice. The more and more you practice the similar patterns, the more and more your brain understands the similar patterns. It records as a program. It becomes automatic. It becomes your habit mind. It becomes your second nature. So a simple thing to observe as an athlete, you want to maintain the chemical nature of your brain as calm and composed, because if it gets distracted or stressed, then different chemicals are secreted. So the only way to repeat your practice with specific technique, specific routine, endlessly is through the rituals. Because only then the brain is going to store every program in your subconscious, and it becomes automatic. It becomes like a habit mind. And only then you'll be able to perform that in your competitions. What do you think?
No, I think this is really amazing, and you're totally right on point. It's by doing those repetitions. Maybe if you could give us an example of how would a shooting athlete do that every day, despite maybe not shooting every day. How would they cultivate that mindset from morning to night, so that they can actually train themselves? Like, let's say I don't go on the shooting range today, but I still want to train that mindset, train those patterns. What would I do personally myself? Like, what are the routines you're teaching to the athletes?
The mind tools are different from what you exactly practice with your gun. It's like you're practicing everything in your mind. You visualize everything in your mind. There is a wrong conception among people these days. It's like visualization. They think, okay, they have to imagine an image, because subconscious mind understands an image. An image is worth 1,000 words, isn't it? So your mind understands the images, visual image, more easily than all the words. So most people think visualization is something that you just have to imagine or dream. No, visualization is you traveling ahead of your time. It has not happened yet, but you're traveling ahead of your time. So when you travel ahead of your time, you need to visualize every senses properly. It's like, you need to really feel what you will think during the game, what you will feel during the game, what you will see during the game. It's a sensory visualization that you practice. Imagine Olympians practice their craft for like years and years, for hours and hours, deliberate practice. deliberate practice, specific hard work. But you can do all that through visualization. You visualize your mind again and again and again and again, endless time. Early morning hours when you wake up, before you really start your self-talk and your morning routines and everything. The moment you know, okay, you're getting up, just travel in your mind. Just travel ahead of your time. Travel in your mind, because those are the alpha waves. Or night routine before you hit the bed, when you know that you can't really open your eyes anymore, you're droopy and you're falling asleep. Travel ahead of your time, because that is the theta mode. Like how I said, alpha waves happen early in the morning. You have the theta waves. Theta waves is something which speak directly to your subconscious mind. It can reprogram your subconscious mind. So that's a stage that happens between 2 to 5 year old. When we were all 2 to 5 year old, we were all experiencing the theta waves. But as we grow old, different kinds of activities keep happening and we don't have those waves. But you can actually experience those waves during that time of the night before you really hit the bed, when you're tired, when you don't know, and you don't want to think anymore. That's if your brain says good night. That's the time. So there are a lot of specific things that you can do from morning to night. You visualize, you practice self-talk. The mind doesn't know if you're really holding a gun or you're really, doing the competition or playing the game.
Yeah.
Because when you do sensory visualization, you're exactly activating the same parts of the brain like how you do in the game. Yeah. It's like, the same amount of chemicals are secreted because you're feeling the calf muscle twitching. You're feeling the sounds through your ears. You're feeling everything that you're experiencing in the game. That's why I tell all my athletes, be very, very specific when you visualize. Otherwise, you're not going to have the bigger effect. No. You're not going to have any effect at all. So you must know how to, practice your mind as if it is a real game. You need to feel that you're really standing in the game when you're doing it. And that happens with visualization. That happens with self-talk because you're practicing your self-talk. When you stand, when you do your dry practice at home, not at the range, when you stand, they don't simply stand. Practice. Yeah. Observe your thoughts. Know what you're thinking. And practice this concentration. When I'm focusing with you, I'm trying to give undivided attention to you. Now, it didn't develop overnight. I developed this focus and concentration. Everything I do, in every activity I do, I give my undivided attention to it. That's how I practice concentration. That's how I practice focus. Right?
Yeah, so you try to put all your attention on everything you do. If you're cooking a meal, you're just thinking about cooking the meal. If you're talking to me,
which means you're being in the present moment.
Yeah.
You're not going to your past. You're not going to your future.
Yeah.
So when you're cooking your meal, observe your thoughts. What exactly you're thinking at the time? Are you thinking about your office work? Are you thinking about your family? Don't do all that because you're not going to achieve anything by doing that.
You're not training. You're not training your mind. No, but that's very good that you're bringing that because we're talking about all of this, but people want to know how can I apply those principles in my day-to-day life right now, And that's exactly what you're saying. If you're actually focusing on one thing, observe your thoughts. And if you're drifting away, realize that you're not focusing and bring it back. So you're always bringing back your focus to what you're doing and that becomes a habit. You're reprogramming your whole mind. Like you said, the program that we have is all different. And that's very good. And you were talking to, which I thought was funny, but it's true. And today's society is really, everything has to be fast. At the clap of a finger, you're trying to load a page on the internet. If it takes 2 seconds, that's too long. Everything has to be quick. And it doesn't train us to be patient and to have dedication. And I think that this is actually affecting society negatively. Like the kids are growing up expecting results without the effort. They're expecting to get something without putting the hard work. And it's hard to reprogram. So have you dealt with that? Like, have you seen a lot of people that are victims of the fact that society is like that today?
Oh, yeah. All the kids, many kids.
All of them, yes. It's crazy.
Many young athletes. It's like, the moment they come and practice their game, probably just for a few weeks or for months, they think about going to Olympics the next year. I mean, people practice for 10 years. You can't.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I said,
Yeah.
remember the example I gave you? Like you practice Facebook for 4 hours.
Yeah.
What happened? And you practice it for weeks.
Yeah.
You practice it for months.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many hours practicing distraction in your life, right? You have so many hours practicing video games in your life.
Yeah, always being distracted, so you don't know how to focus.
Exactly. And these kids, if they want to do their maths or biology or anything, any science or anything they want to learn,
they can't
unless
focus.
and until you put in that practice hours, focus in what you do, undivided attention in everything you do, you will not be able to succeed.
No.
Then how do you think that you will develop that habit? Very simple. I tell all the children, I tell the parents, whenever I give a talk to the school or to the colleges, I tell them, I just ask them one simple question. How many of you do your bed every day? Can you believe it? Just 1 or 2% in the entire crowd.
And they're probably lying because they don't want to look bad. They're probably lying. Yeah, I do my bed every day. No, you're not.
That's an amazing exercise for your brain. But you know what? The reason that I ask them is only when you do your bed, the process of sleep gets completed. If you don't do your bed, the process of sleep is not completed. I tell this to all my students, which means, suppose you have cooked your meal, you're eating. Put the plate where it needs to be cleaned. At least go take your plate and put it there. Don't just leave it there. So these are little things. So what you do is you train your brain in such a way, you are literally telling your brain that whatever task you do, you will not leave incomplete. You will complete it. You will not leave half-baked. That is a very, very, very good attitude for any sportsman to develop because they practice. They have to come back again early in the morning to practice the same thing. It's boring, but they have to keep doing it. They shouldn't give up. I tell my students, so you practice today, don't give up. You complete it and then go. So how do you develop that habit of completing every task? Whatever you do in the whole day, in all your routines, you need to complete it, finish it. And the second thought is, do a little bit more today. So you've finished this task, do a little bit more. Like, okay, you do your bed. Maybe arrange it in a very neat way. Today, I arrange it like how it is in Marriott. The next day, how it is in Hilton. Do something, do different. And when you practice, so what happens is, today I practiced for 4 hours. And then your brain will rewire and say, okay, let me practice for 4 hours, 15 minutes. Let me practice for another 5 minutes the next day. And slowly the hours of practice keep increasing because you have developed the quality. Number one, finish what you do. Complete your task, no matter what. Number two, do a little bit more. So you focus, you train your mind, you give your undivided attention to everything that you do. You try to be in the present moment and you finish the task no matter what. You don't really walk away from it. So these are qualities that a kid must develop at this age. Otherwise, we all become scatterbrains. It's like they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't have structure. They're lost.
It really surprises me when a grad school student comes up and say, I have no idea what I have to do with my life. And probably I might take a couple of years break, travel around, and then decide. And then she wants to decide what she wants to do in her life. So all these years of her life, what she has done, there's no focus. There's no attention to details.
They were distracted.
There's no concentration. They're distracted, exactly.
But we are trained to be distracted with today's society. It's crazy. Everything, the social medias, the Facebook, the notification, the stuff, the internet, all of that, it's dragging our focus away all the time from what we're doing. Like
that is exactly why I told you. That is why I told you your body is like your mobile charger. It's charged 100%. You must know where you have to invest that energy. If you invest that energy in these distractions, by the end of the day, you will get exhausted. And you will just sleep as a distracted mind. So what kind of neuroplasticity happens? Only with distractions.
Just burning yourself out mentally.
Exactly. But if you invest that energy in your practice, in your mindset, in your rituals, in your habit loops, in your performance, in focusing, in developing willpower, because you're coming back again tomorrow. That's a great, tremendous willpower, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you develop all this and you practice all this and you invest your energy into all this. So what happens? All these investments adds up, and one day you benefit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that benefit is you standing at the podium and receiving the highest honor.
Yeah.
And that happens. So it's like a gradual process. Nothing happens in an instant way. There's no instant result, but it is a gradual process that develops.
Mm-hmm. And
that is exactly what I train. And these are the training that I give my students.
Wow.
And I tell them to practice their rituals. I give them a morning routine.
Okay.
And I always tell everybody, have a morning routine, have a night routine. And make sure that in the night, before you sleep, just think for a second, have you actually done everything that you spoke in the morning to yourself? The routine that you created to yourself, the chart that you did to yourself. Did you actually do everything? So when you start doing it as a habit in the night, you know what happens? If you have not done any activity, your brain will remember it. The next morning, you will get up to finish that activity and then start your next day. So there is a lot of, the whole idea is to develop automaticity in your mind, is to develop a second nature, is to develop or rather reprogram your subconscious mind for your competition. The whole idea is to make sure that, the moment you go there, your habit mind, your automatic mind will come and execute the shots.
Mm-hmm.
It is not your conscious mind, which is logical thinking, scaring, and thinking about or getting distracted is going to actually play the game. Your subconscious mind will come over there and will execute the shots.
Yeah.
So that is the whole idea of this entire program that I've developed.
Wow. And I want to go back to the power of visualization. And I think that's something I wanted to touch base on with you, but you brought it up before I could even spoke about it. But yeah, it's so powerful. And that's something that I started to implement into my own practices. And like you said, the brain doesn't know if it's happening in real time or not. And there was a study that was actually conducted in the United States somewhere. I forgot the name of the study, but basically what it was is they had 3 groups shooting basketball hoops. So one group would practice for a month, certain amount of hours every week. Another group would just visualize for the same amount of hours, not shooting the ball, but actually just visualizing for, let's say, an hour per week to shoot the ball in and score. And the third group would do actually nothing. And they measured their score at the beginning of actually shooting the ball in the basketball and then at the end. So the one that practiced obviously improved because they're practicing. So they improved by 27%, if I recall.
23.
23? Okay. So
you
the study. So yeah. And then the other group improved, like the one that used only visualization improved by, I think it was 24 or 23 or around the same number.
It was 1% difference, 23 and 22.
Yeah, one or the other. But anyways, and then the last one didn't improve at all because they didn't practice at all. So basically what you could conclude from that is that your brain doesn't understand if it's happening in real time or not. So when you visualize what you're doing, but at first you got to know how to do it first. So if you never shot a pistol, you can't visualize how to do a perfect shot. Your mind doesn't have that blueprint to reproduce those mechanism and images and everything in your mind. But once you actually have some knowledge and you went out on the range or whatever and shot a few rounds and you got it in the middle, you actually know how to do that. Now you can visualize it. So when you visualize, you're enhancing. It's kind of like your training. It's just an add-on to your training. So if you combine all the hours that you spend on the range with on your off hours visualizing shots, you're actually increasing. It's like the amount of hours you're dedicating to your practice doubles, but you're not spending more time on the range. So I started doing that and I've seen tremendous benefits and results coming directly from visualization and applying those principles. So what I do prior to a competition is I meditate. And by meditate, I clear my mind chatter first. I try to clear my mind of everything that's going on. If I'm thinking about something I have to do, then I clear it through meditation. Secondly, I'm going to visualize what I'm going to do. So while I'm meditating, I'm done meditating, I have my eyes closed. I'm thinking about how to place my shots perfectly. And then I rehearse that in my mind. So now it's kind of like I'm actually shooting rounds without shooting them. So then when I go on the course of fire and it's my turn, the buzzer goes up, draw my pistol, I'm ready to go. And I actually already took some shots in my head that were perfect. So my brain doesn't have the anxiety of missing as much because it's like, well, you already landed those shots. I never did, but I got it in my mind ahead of time. So it's kind of like I'm just following through on what I started that was really good instead of starting off fresh on the line without any prior shots. So the visualization aspect of it, and a lot of athletes do that. They visualize everything they're going to do, and they visualize
like
it.
how exactly you said about the basketball
exactly that
players,
study.
even golfers. There was a huge study, research on the golfers, the top playing athletes, and they visualize everything, from the time they hit the ball, the entire arc of the ball, the entire arc, how it goes. It falls on the lane, in the lawn, and how it rolls down to the hole. The entire episode, they really visualize. So I tell all the people, it's like, you're traveling ahead of the time.
Yes, exactly.
So you need to visualize. The brain doesn't know if it is a real or imagery.
No.
But you really need to do in a proper way to get the maximum benefit out of it. If you don't visualize properly, then you're not going to, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
You're just wasting your time and you're not going to benefit anything out of it.
No.
So there are a lot of things that you can do in mind when it comes to visualization, self-talk, your rituals, your patterns, developing your neural pathways, because everything is done with practice.
Yeah.
So during practice, everything that matters, your focus matters, your attention matters, your willpower matters, your concentration matters. And how do you come back every time? It's like, that's why I said practice focus in everything that you do, whatever activity you do. So when you drift, you know very well you're drifting and you will slowly and gently come back to that moment.
Yeah.
So unless until you keep practicing this in your day-to-day activity, it is very difficult to practice only for the competitions because we don't have competitions every moment of our lives.
No, exactly.
We have it only during particular times of the year. So
there's not that many, there's just a very few events, compared to all the practice.
Very true. Yeah. Exactly. And even you practice on your home ground, no matter you think it is a competition in practice, but your mind knows it is not the real competition.
Yeah.
So you're just practicing. So you just try to develop or rather create an atmosphere of the competition, but it is not the real competition because those kind of processes are not going to really bother. So these are the aspects your subconscious mind will know it very well. So you need to practice in all the activities that you do, day-to-day activities, in all the routines, like morning to night. Like how you exactly said, I tell the same thing to my teams. You said meditation, right?
Yeah.
So meditation in India is a different concept altogether.
Okay.
But I tell them, imagine an energy just entering your skull when you stand after that. And, imagine that energy running from head to toe.
Yeah.
It's like calming your nerves, combing the nerves. Literally, I tell them, comb your nerves, make them calm, come to that composed state. Yeah. Before you really actually take a shot. Stand there. Imagine combing your nerves. It's like, leaving all the chatter, leaving all the clutter of the atmosphere around you, and also the internal chatter that is happening in your brain. And then after doing that, start your self-talk. After doing that, start your self-talk. When you start your self-talk, do your rituals, practice your rituals. And most important thing that I tell everybody, do not change the rituals. Because like how I told you the example of an address. When I ask you an address, what do you say? Go straight, take left, go to that four-way junction, and then take right, you have it. The brain understands that as a ritual. The brain patterns are created that way. That's how we are built. That's exactly how we are built. So when you change a pattern there, the brain will not know, okay, you're changing something. And it gets confused. Do not confuse it. So what are you trying to do is, whatever you've practiced so far, please do it in the same way. Do not change just because you are in a competition. Your brain will get confused. The patterns will not be executed in the same way. So those are very, very important things that you need to follow. So these are the things that I keep telling them. And my job is to make sure that they are in the zone. So when they are at the zone, most of the athletes, they are not in the zone. But I help them to be in the zone when you're at the zone and deliver their game effortlessly. That's what I do.
No, that's awesome. And what's your biggest success story in terms of training an athlete? Is there anyone that you ever got that was really, really struggling and you brought them to gold medal, first position, whatever?
I have developed this whole thing in recent times because Before that, I was just counseling them for fear, anxiety. And then I realized there's no point counseling only for the game.
Yeah.
They need to understand the basic fundamentals, like everything what I've explained to you so far. Only then they will know how thoughts transform their lives, how emotions transform their lives, the linkage between thoughts and emotions and behaviors, and how they have to observe each and every thought that happens in their day-to-day activity, how they have to develop their focus. Because most of the time, the coaches, the trainers, and even the parents, they always yell at their students and they put the blame on the students. They tell them, focus, you're not concentrating. But when you ask the same question, how do you focus? How do you concentrate? They don't have an answer. Yeah. They simply don't have an answer.
You gotta just say focus if they never know what focusing is. They'll be like, focus on what? What do I do? Like, focus what? Focus where?
And you love your kids. You allow the kids and at least to get distracted all the time. How will they harness their powers into positivity? How do they practice the positivity? The law of practice states you need to practice so many amount of hours.
Yeah.
You need to focus so many amount of hours. And only then you'll be able to achieve the perfection. So these are the things that, I've been trying to teach. Well, I have got a few students who started the shooting, and these are the students like one, they're in teenage. The other people are like, they're into trap and skeet. And some of them are like 40-year-olds who are struggling with the entire concept of neuroplasticity. It's extremely difficult. They have to be so deliberate. They have to be very, very focused. And they really have to have the clarity as to why they want to change, why they want to do it. Otherwise, it is extremely difficult to reprogram their mind at that age compared to what the teenager can do. So I've been trying to help them. And this year, because we had this COVID break for almost 1.5 years, all the matches and everything was postponed and all the ranges were closed.
Yeah.
That was the time I took an opportunity to tell them, please practice your mind. Don't think your ranges are closed. Don't think that you didn't have any competition. This is an ample time. In fact, you guys are so, use it. Use the opportunity. Don't keep blaming. I keep telling them, do the gratitude journaling every day after your morning routine, your exercises. Please do the gratitude journaling. That's an amazing thing for your mind and brain, because when you write what you're grateful for, and when you write what exactly you want to be in the future, what are the plans for your future, you're actually giving a program to your brain. You're actually telling your brain. So what happens is you stop that blame game. So when you go to the competition, there's always this blame game happening. My coach never taught me. The lighting was not good. My weapon was not really suiting me. I had a stomach upset. Well, you're going to the competition. The foods will trigger you certain acidity. So why do you want to have those foods, right? But there is always a blame game when the scores are less. So this is a common thing that keeps happening everywhere. So I tell them, in order to stop all the blame game, first start the gratitude journaling.
Wow.
Start doing the journal. And when you keep counting your blessings every day, when you keep counting your blessings, when you keep writing it, your brain will start to rewire itself. It will find an opportunity in everything that is presented to you.
Yeah.
It will not blame. It will, in fact, give an opportunity in everything that is presented to you. Being even at the most turbulent times, you will think, you will be more optimistic towards it.
Yeah.
You will think, okay, now, all right, something has happened, something terrible has happened. Let me look at a way in it. Let me work a way towards it. So you will have this mindset because you have practiced gratitude. You have practiced that gratitude journaling. So your mind automatically rewires into all the blessings, into all the opportunities. And athlete will think, wow, I'm so grateful that I was able to practice so many hours every day. I'm so grateful that I had an amazing coach who's always with me, who's always been training me. I'm grateful that my parents have supported me all this while. So when he has so much of grateful, he will not be blaming himself. He will not blame others. He will not blame the external environment or the circumstances that he is in. Instead, he will work on the opportunities.
Yeah.
He will his mind will start to rewire itself. So all these practices will help them. So I've been telling all the athletes, make use of these times. Make use of the time. Don't think your shooting range is closed. Don't think you're going to a tough time. No, don't think like that. Instead, make use of all these hours.
Yeah.
The more and more you make use of everything, you'll be able to do it. And some students seem to have really grabbed the idea, and they've been working very, very sincerely.
Okay.
And we have probably within a couple of months, we are going to have the national competitions and everything. I've been training them.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting and expecting the results from them. So hopefully we get good results. There's a lot of confidence, and whatever they've practiced so far, there's a lot of difference in their results, whatever results they want to achieve, and they seem to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me happy at the end of the day. Okay,
of course.
they've understood the concept.
Yeah, no, you're making
It's not
a
just shooting
difference,
alone.
right?
It's not just shooting alone. It's archery, it's gymnastics. I mean, anything you want to pursue.
Yeah.
You need to really understand how your mind works.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you work your mind towards it, you will be working your way to success. Success will come to you. You don't have to work too hard. It will automatically come to you.
Yeah, no, you're
That is
totally
the whole
right.
concept of mind.
Yeah, and it's about applying the use of your time and your mind to what you want to achieve. And the more you're going, like you said, it's combined hours. So the more you're going to have rituals, routines, habits that you're going to put towards that certain goal or idea, the closer you're going to get to it. And that's something that I always tell people. I'm like, if you want to get somewhere or you want to do something, what can you actually do today that is going to get you closer to that? One thing, just one thing today. And then tomorrow is a second thing, then a third thing. And then after a week, you did 7 things. And then it piles up. And then you get really
adding up 1% every day.
Yeah.
And you reach there. That's correct.
Yeah. Or you're
Correct.
going to surpass it, or you're going to be, wow, I didn't see it coming and now it's already there.
Matt, I just asked this one question to everybody. Yes. The whole world population, it is just 1 or 2% who have received the Olympic medal.
Yep.
Just 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
And we all dream for that 1%,
mm-hmm.
which means we must be prepared to do what the other 99% of people were not willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is the effort.
Yeah. No, definitely. If you want to be that 1%, you got to do what the 99% of other people aren't doing. So you got to know what that 1% does and do it. Yeah. No, definitely. I totally agree with you. Well, I mean, in regards to raising your dopamine at night, because I think that's really good points, for people to take from this podcast that they can bring into their life. So having routines, following circadian rhythm, so going to bed, and then when they sleep, all their brain is flushing out the toxins, refreshing itself, being prepared for a new day ahead. And that raises dopamine, right? From my understanding. And if you don't have a good sleep, then you have cortisol, and that stays in your brain. So when you wake up, you have still cortisol in there. So you're still dealing with stress hormone at the beginning of your day. So what happens if you have a bad sleep? So
obviously you're secreting this cortisol, you're secreting the stress chemicals, and you're not sleeping well. The first thing for your mind is have your proper sleep cycle. Know your sleep cycle.
So that would be your best.
Establish your
sleep
cycle.
Okay.
You need
first
to have
foremost.
that because first and foremost, because the dopamine, it acts more like a glue to the neuroplasticity that you're trying to develop.
Okay.
So whatever habits that you're trying to strengthen in your brain, whatever practices that you're trying to strengthen in your neural pathways, you need that dopamine effort. Mm-hmm. Only then you will have that, feel good factor. You will come back to your practice every day, in spite of the fact that, you lacked, probably your day was not good and you don't want to go. But that gives that motivation, that gives that edge. It pushes you. It pushes you to come back no matter how many times you fail. Sports is the only thing that you compete every day and you become a better version of yourself. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, isn't it? No other field does it.
Yeah.
But only in sports, the kids learn that you compete with yourself. You compete with your own score every day. And you come back every day. So it takes a tremendous amount of willpower to come back every day, knowing that this is what you're going to achieve, or this is where you lag, and this is your result, or this is your score. So you come back every day facing everything. So there's an amazing quality. And if you want to pursue such amazing qualities and you really want to get into that disciplined mode of practice, then you need to make sure that your sleep cycle is perfectly established. If you don't have that sleep cycle, then it's a chaos. There is no brain-body connection.
No, it is. I mean, we've all been there. When we have poor sleep, we can't achieve even a quarter of what we wanted to do the next day. We're just running on a slow program. We're sluggish. We can't focus. And I believe that's one of the greatest tips you can give to people. Focus on great sleep routines that will get you that deep sleep that you need so that you can be efficient when you're awake. And if you're
That's your night routine.
yeah,
You start sleeping at this time
yeah,
and make sure that you have your meal 1.5 hours earlier.
hmm,
So your body is set, your mind is set, your stomach is set,
yeah,
and you really don't have any kind of a disturbances, and you sleep peacefully.
yeah,
And when you hit the bed during the first rapid eye movement or during the first sleep cycle, what
hmm,
happens is you really go to the next level. You go into that alpha state, theta state, beta state, next level of sleep, REM sleeps, the next cycles.
hmm.
And slowly your brain starts to do all the neuroplasticity. And you don't have any issues. It's because you're sleeping deep. And everything that you've practiced, everything, your brain starts to think, okay, the whole hours she's been focusing on one particular thing for so many hours. So that must be really, really important. So let me strengthen that pathway. Let me strengthen that nerve for her. And the next day, when you get up and when you do it, you will find it so easy. You will find it so effortless.
Yeah.
And that's how you develop the techniques. That's how you develop the techniques.
Hmm.
If you don't do it, if you're awake till 1, 2, number one, your body gets tired
Yeah.
because the essential chemicals are not secreted. Number two, you wake up very late. And so you will not be able to do the morning routines. You will not be able to meditate. You will not have the peaceful alpha wave of meditation, which happens early in the morning at 5 o'clock. You sleep at 1, 2, you will not be able to get up at
So
4
you're
or 5.
missing that. You're missing the alpha
You're missing
waves.
the morning routine. If you don't sleep properly, then you're missing your morning routine, which means you're missing your meditation, you're missing your clear visualization,
Mm.
you're missing your self-talk, you're not charting your day. And so when you miss to the morning, then how can you actually go for the rest of the day? The rest of the day is not planned because you've not done anything properly in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. That's how the brain works. So
Mm.
whatever you do, it's a series of mindset. It's a series of rituals. It's a series of patterns that you need to develop. Unless until you have a series of routines that needs to be developed, you will not be able to perform.
Yeah, no.
That is the first step for any performance.
No, it's really awesome. And speaking of sleep, I'm heading for it soon. It's been an amazing podcast. It's
It
getting
must be
later.
really late for
Yeah,
you.
it's getting there. It's
I
getting there.
know.
I don't know if you had any last questions for me before we close and wrap up this podcast together.
I ask this question to everybody.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
mean, I've come across trainers and coaches
Hmm.
who still don't believe in mind training as well.
Hmm.
But at the same, they don't want to acknowledge it openly. But I tell them, what do you think? Do you really think the shooters have to know these fundamentals of neuroscience? Do you really think that an athlete must make use of these neuroscience
Hmm.
and make use for their game? As a shooter, do you think this will be important for athletes to learn more about it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that we talked about that I started to do in my own shooting competition is controlling my mind. And before I was made aware of how the mind works, I was self-sabotaging. Like I would self-destruct almost my performance by just not understanding how the mind works and how to catch myself with those thoughts and not thinking about the future, the past, and really be in the moment because shooting comes down to applying the fundamentals perfectly to every shot. So if you're not applying your fundamentals perfectly to every shot, you're not going to be able to get all those bullseyes and great shots that you're going to line up. So if you're thinking about other things, while you're thinking about those other things, you're not applying the fundamentals perfectly because your focus is not there and your brain cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. And people will challenge that and they'll say, well, yes, I can think. No, you're not. You're thinking about one, you're shifting back to the other, back to the middle very quickly, so quickly that you think you're multitasking. But this is not true. So when you go to shooting and having a mind coach like you, but not just for shooting, for anything in life, is actually one of the best things you can do. And even if you don't get a mind coach, just understanding how your mind works and really diving into improving that aspect of your life, it will improve everything else. So, do I think that they should focus on that? Yes, definitely. It should be more important, even so, than the practice almost. Even though the practice is really important, that is even like even if you practice to perfection, if you don't master the mind, you're gonna sabotage yourself when it comes to competing. 100%. You can be the best at practice. You always nail your shots, but you don't know how to manage your anxiety, your mind, your fear of failure, and all of that. You're gonna go to competition, and boom, it's gonna all collapse. And how many people have you seen that under competition, under stress, they fell, but they're doing so great when it's not a test? You've seen so many people.
90% of the time.
90%.
90%.
Like, you can give, in school, you can give practice exams to students without telling them that's the real test. They'll probably score better than if you say that's the real test and it counts on your report card. And they will, because they're not stressed. They're not having anxiety. Therefore, their focus is better. They're doing, let's say, their maths better. Their thinking process is better. And that's because you're not putting them under pressure that it's a test. So one thing that I would say for anybody that's competing out there is, like I said, have fun. Don't see it as a competition. See it as you showing up to an event that's tremendously fun. You're enjoying this. You do it regularly. This is amazing. You're getting another awesome, beautiful day outdoors or whatever at doing something you love, and then just focus on your shots. Bring back your focus from broad.
That's exactly what I tell all the students.
Yeah.
Just focus on your performance for that moment.
Exactly.
Be in the moment.
That's it.
Just be in the moment. Practice it.
Yeah.
Don't think about the future, what's going to happen after 5 minutes. And don't think about what happened before 5 minutes.
No.
Just be in the moment. Only then you will know, you will calculate yourself, yes, I have to perform my best at this particular moment or in the moment. Definitely. Otherwise, your thoughts keep drifting. And when your thoughts keep drifting, you obviously feel anxious about it. You feel nervous about it. You have all the other elements because the different chemicals are secreted with those emotions. As I said, the brain is swimming in a soup of chemicals. Yeah. So every time you think, you're altering the chemistry of the brain. I always tell, there is a pharmacy to mastery in your skull. Make use of it. Yes. That's the final advice that I can tell everybody.
No, it's true. And you can control that. You can change in a fraction of a second your mindset by just changing what you're thinking about or what you're focusing about. So if you're having a bad day, like you said, and you're focusing on something that happened at work, a situation, whatever it is, but then you receive a text message from your spouse, partner, lover, and it's really joyful, then whoop, you just shift your mindset and you're like, wow, okay, I feel good now. But why were you not feeling good before and now you feel good? Because your brain in an instant of a second changed the chemicals, and then all of a sudden you feel better. But we're capable to break those patterns. If you're having a bad day or something, break that pattern. Do something you enjoy. Crank up your favorite music. Just shift your mindset, and then you're going to shift the way you're feeling, your whole body, everything that's going on. So for anybody out there,
shift your thoughts, because you know that these thoughts are going to really drain you.
Yeah, they will.
And these thoughts are very constructive. So shift your thoughts immediately. That's your mindset you're talking about.
Yeah.
Totally shift your thoughts, because you know very well, you know the fundamentals. Every thought is linked to an emotion, and which in turn links to behavior. Yeah. Like you get up in the morning and you don't do it's like how I told you, it's 100% energy that when you get up in the morning, and every percentage goes to every activity that we do. We have our morning routines. Suppose we don't have our morning routines or whatever it is, and we're not really prepared for the day. What happens is, for instance, you drive a car and you go to office and you drive in a crowded road, and you keep screaming at everybody who keeps, coming in between your car. That person is not going to hear anything that you shout. No. Mind you, you're actually screaming inside your car. Yeah. But then your energy is wasted. The thought is like scattered everywhere because you're focusing all the attention over there to what exactly is going on. But when you come and you go, you're saving all that energy. And when you're going over there to your office, no matter what happens, you've already charted the day. You've already charted your routine. You know what you have to do. Yeah. You know the errors that you've been doing, and you know how to avoid those errors the next day when you do, because you've already planned it in your mind. And the way you planned it is when you are so quiet and when the whole world is sleeping, and when you're quiet, what happens? You're talking to your subconscious. And when you're talking to your subconscious, which has got the entire database, which has got the entire answers for all your problems, it's like, it's giving you instructions, it's giving you answers, it's giving you solutions. Yeah. So make use of all that. Make use of that morning routine.
Definitely. Well, before we close up, do you have one last word you want to share with the audience?
Like I said, You have a pharmacy to master.
Mhm.
Know the fundamentals of neuroscience. Know the fundamentals. It plays a major, major role in sports.
Mhm.
Sports is something that, the difference between the gold medal and the silver medal is just in seconds. It's just in seconds.
Yeah.
It's not a big difference at all. Both of them work towards hard. And the worst part is the difference between the gold medal and the person who came fourth again lies in seconds. And imagine this mindset, how you would have had when you just landed up in fourth or fifth. So it's all the hard work, the team, everything that matters.
Mhm.
And there is no quick fixes. There's no quick fixes to anything. You need to work hard. You need to practice because you're developing a pattern in your brain. You're developing a neuroplasticity. You're developing a neural connection, which is you're strengthening it with certain design. Your brain designs itself to a pattern that you really want to have that desired result. So you need to work hard towards it. And every minute of your life counts. Whatever you do,
Mhm.
put your practice in everything that you do. That's how you master your skill. Put your practice in everything, your attention skill, your distractions, your attractions, your thoughts. Observe them. Observe your thoughts. Whatever you do, whatever activity you do, observe your thoughts. Just make sure you're being in the moment.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, no matter what you do, only if you be in the moment, you will be able to achieve excellence in any sphere of your life. It can be anything. If you're not being in the moment, if you're not connected to your activity in the moment, then you're not connected to that activity at all.
Yeah.
You're just doing it for the sake of doing it, and you will not achieve the result. So you got to be connected to any activity that you're doing. And the only way is to be in the moment. Only then you can be in the zone.
I love it. The best advice ever. Well, Abby, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time with us
Thank you
today.
so much, Matt. It's amazing, and it was a pleasure talking to you and knowing your inputs as well as a shooter. That will help my students. When I tell my students, yeah, there's a shooter out there, he's an IDPA shooter, and he talks about the thoughts, how
Mhm.
it can be claustrophobic, how it can be like, totally
Yeah, please
distracting him.
share it with them. It's my pleasure.
Exactly.
If it can be inspiring for all your athletes in India that are training and shooting and just hearing it from somebody else in
Absolutely.
Canada,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And whoever wants mind training, they can contact me anytime. I have a page on Instagram. They can DM me or
Okay.
they can email me. I'll give you my email address and they can email me.
Yeah.
I offer online classes. I teach them each and everything in specific about how this neural pathways are formed, how
Mhm.
habits are formed, what are your triggers, what are your behaviors, and how your
Awesome.
triggers are stored in your brain. We have a certain area of the brain where the triggers are stored.
Mhm.
So that's why you keep repeating that habit. You fall into a loop. You asked me a question, how we become a victim of the situation, because you're always repeating that loop all the time.
Yeah.
And you need to change that loop. And
Mhm.
how do you change it? Is with curiosity of the awareness of the situation. So it all lies in specific and incredible detailing of your mind.
Mhm.
And that is something that I teach. I offer them all these courses like neuroplasticity, mindsets, and different chemicals, and what are the chemicals that are used for sports, and how you can use them,
Mhm.
how to reprogram your subconscious through self-talk, visualization, energy. How do you value and invest your energy? And as an athlete, what you have to do. So all these things I teach them. So if anybody is interested, they can contact me. I'll be more than happy to help anybody who wants to achieve success in their life in whatever they pursue.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure some people will reach out to you because you're very knowledgeable and what you teach is very interesting. And I could have spoken about it for another 2 hours or so. But yeah, I got to get into those good habits and hit the sack and go to bed. So until next
That's good.
time,
That's a great start.
it's a great start. Yeah. So until next time, everybody, thanks for being on another episode of the Living Better podcast. And Abby, have a wonderful
Thank you
rest of
so
your
much.
day. Bye.